Okay, we want to call the
And it was at a lake.
May
Swimming
29th
I couldn't
meeting
believe
of the
it.
Lake Commission to
Cold water
order.
didn't seem to bother.
Thank you for coming, everyone. And I guess the first thing we'll do is the approval of the meeting minutes from the April meeting. Has everyone had a chance to peruse the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I perused the meetings, I liked them, I'd like to make a motion that we approve those meetings.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Staying great. Okay. Second, review and approval of bills and expenses. What do we got, Miss?
We got a bill from ESS Services for $220.50.
Okay. Any discussion? Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Okay. Move on to the Commissioner's report. It was a great weekend this weekend, beautiful weather-wise. The lake was very, very active. All over the lake, in front of my house. I mean, you know, typically a busy day on Flint Pond is like 5 boats. Way busier this year, or this past weekend. I think one of the reasons was that on Oak Island, and I know that Oak Island's posted for not to do this, but there was, you know, a party going on. There's jet skis coming off the thing.
Goodness gracious.
There was a campfire, yeah. All good stuff. One of the benefits, if you're a boater from going into Flint Pond, is there's no police presence. The boats can't get over there. So I'm not that I want to announce this on TV. What's that?
No, it's good. I'm good.
That'll make the rest of the lake better for us now.
Yeah, exactly. They tend to launch over there, but the jet skis get a little tired of going around in circles, even for them. So they'll head out to the big lake. And my observation this particular weekend was that there are some spots on that trip that you should not be going any faster than headway speed. One is under the Stringer Dam, which seemed to be an obvious thing not to do because it's very low. And two is under Route 20 on the eastern part of the island, which is, you know, not a low bridge, but it's got a significant obstruction of view. And so I experienced it once last year when I was actually under the bridge and a jet ski passed me going like 35 miles an hour. And he literally was within touching distance of my boat, sprayed the whole boat, got everybody wet, and just drove by like he didn't know that that was not a good thing to do, which I later, you know, tracked him down, and he didn't realize it, you know, he couldn't do that. So, you know, I don't know from a law enforcement standpoint what we can do to mitigate that, but as that gets busier and busier over there, it's gonna cause great safety concerns, because it is a small area, and it's getting more and more like the Wild West, and there's nothing to, you know, to stop them doing what they're doing. So, just some food for thought. I don't think it's in anybody's budget to go out and buy a new boat or a new jet ski or anything like that. Listen,
I'm thinking in a couple of years, the commission should be in pretty good financial shape. We could probably have a commission craft, and then whatever law enforcement agency has the offices available that particular weekend could use the commission's craft.
well, I believe if that does happen, it's gonna be mostly ceremonial, like the war canoe from Tatasset, so, it's gonna be like, there'll be enough for all 9 members to paddle. But we're gonna have to really get into shape to pull that off. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, if I can make a comment relative to your comments, although it took a while to post the Route 9 bridge, maybe there's a definite need for posting then at the Stringer Dam and underneath the Route 20 bridge, where it literally says headway speed only. I'm thinking that under those 2 narrow passageways at present, there is not such signage. And maybe this commission has to investigate investing in putting up such signage, so.
Okay. There was actually a sign on the Route 20 bridge before they rebuilt it, and that was going on 15, 20 years ago now, I guess. But it seems like every time DOT changes a bridge, they
If we're
take all the
seeing
signs
incidents,
down.
Mr. Chair, if I can, apologize for interrupting, but if we're seeing incidents now, it sounds like there's a need for signs now.
Absolutely. So, good. So that's my 2 cents worth on that. And other than that, I guess I had a question more than a comment about, and I guess an offer with the checking the plates. So after the 30th, you guys actually have a plan to go out and do that, or?
It's the 31st, I believe.
31st, I'm sorry, after 31st, yeah.
I'll have to talk to Officer Valier about that. and
Okay.
See what his plan is.
I'm just wondering if there's any way to please, and I will offer, for all those places that you guys can't get the boat under, like they can, I'll offer to take you around on the other side of the Stringer Dam.
That's a good idea.
So if you want to go around there and check all those out, I don't,
Okay.
except for my dock, that should be fine. At any time with that one. Okay, that's cool. And that's it for me. Mr. Piker?
Well, got my stickers in the mail. I put them on my docks, Mr. Chair. Number two, it appears that there's an eaglet or two whose heads are sticking out of the nest on Drake Island. The water is high. It's probably a function of a dam that's in one piece at the end of the lake, as well as everybody knows, an unusual amount of rain and water coming into the watershed. Other than that, Mr. Chair, as it's been said, the usage, I think, there was probably some suppressed desire and frustration want to get out in the water, and having such a good weather weekend, everybody kind of call it what you want, busted out. But, we have to be concerned in terms of people getting too rambunctious, people behaving themselves. So other than that, Mr. Chair, that's it for the moment.
Thank you. Kyle?
All right, Officer Kyle Amato, the Shrewsbury Police Department has nothing to report at this time.
Okay, the weekend was
A success.
success? Perfect.
I thought it was
Thank you.
a great, would you agree, Captain?
Oh, it was, yeah.
Okay. You can elaborate on that, because you're next.
As they just said about the lake this week. Worcester was finally Worcester Police finally on the lake this weekend. They drove around, get a feel for the safe places and the unsafe places. And I don't mean criminally, I meant more like where the boat can crash into the low areas of the lake. They met with favorable response. Most of the citizens that live on the lake, the residents pretty much waved to the boat as they went by. And I know that everyone that was operating the craft was more or less lawfully operating, doing what they were supposed to. They also gave a little wave. I know that we made a few stops and said hello to a few of the boaters out there. My guys said that they were surprised that after about 4 or 5 hours, it got a little monotonous, going up and down, up and down. It says, you're looking at this lawn being cut real nice and the color of this house and that. So that's what they started to notice, as well as the craft that was on the lake. But it was a pretty good weekend. They said Shrewsbury was out, they were out, environmental police were out, and it seemed like they were surprised at how busy it gets after about 3 or 4 o'clock. I think Saturday was busy about noontime. Is that when you guys were on Saturday afternoon?
I got on at 3.
Yeah. So they said Saturday, it got busy around about noontime. But they felt like that the lake was being well utilized for recreation this Memorial Day weekend. So we will go back again. We'll be back on the lake. We're not going to broadcast our hours or our days, but suffice to say, probably about 4 or 5 days a week. And early evening, late afternoons, you'll see Worcester Police on the lake. Commissioner, that's my report.
Thank you very much.
I mean, Chairman, not Commissioner.
Mr. Polito?
Just a comment, I just saw there were a lot of boats on the lake this weekend, a lot of jet skis. Some were obeying the rules, some were not. It was nice to see the police presence out there, they were doing their job. I did see Shrewsbury pull some people over, talk to them, and told them to slow down, I think, because they did slow down after that. So, you know, it's just busy, it's the beginning of the season, and, you know, just hope everybody is safe and has a great season. That's it.
All right, thank you. That was good news. We didn't seem to have anyone hurt or injured, knock on wood, so that was good. Mr. Conway?
Not a lot from Grafton. There's some new, after the election last week, so there's some fresh blood on the board, so hopefully some,
So I can take another run at him?
yeah. So that might be good. I don't, can't get much worse, right? Other than that, this is actually gonna be my last meeting, so I'm relocating. So,
Oh.
I don't know who the replacement's gonna be just yet, but by next month, we'll see who it is.
Someplace,
Lake Winnipesaukee?
No, Lake Jordan in North Carolina.
oh, nice.
Back
Congratulations.
to being a
Hey,
Tar Heel.
congratulations, good for you.
Good luck.
Yeah. Thank you for
Yeah,
all the
that's
stuff
been
you've done
fun.
for us. And I just want to mention that also we've got two retirements, I guess, because Dick Semitis is also relocating. He's not going so far, though. He's going to Shrewsbury. If you guys know where that is, it's a nice little town.
Mr. Chair, if I could, Scott, does the town have anybody to replace you?
I'm not sure yet. I should know within the next 2 weeks or so.
Traditionally, Grafton takes a little bit longer than most places to replace.
Yeah, but we're fully stocked right now in the Conservation Commission, so
That's good.
we have the
Be
body.
careful when you're throwing that stone.
Yeah.
It took us 2 years to get Arthur's seat filled up,
Yeah,
so.
that's right. So, I have an idea who it's gonna be, but.
So,
I'm just looking for-
yeah, and I guess we can figure out what Worcester's gonna do with Mr. Semitis. You know, I mean, me personally, I wouldn't have, if Worcester's okay with it, I wouldn't have, if they can't find someone having any objections to Mr. Semitis, you know, finishing out his term. You know, even though he can still represent Worcester and live in Shrewsbury, I guess, for the body of that, but that's up to the city manager. We'll hopefully have that discussion. But it's been nice, because we've had quorums almost every meeting.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Which was tough to pull off before, so.
Made for quick meetings, though.
Samory,
Just one thing to report that on our June 3rd agenda, we have a notice of intent before us for the properties on Lake Ave down near the Othello, Islesbury area. There's an existing building there that's going to be torn down, and 4 houses will be put up in its place. It will remove 2 slabs of concrete from within the 30-foot buffer, and the new houses will be built outside of the 100-foot buffer. And so,
what about on Lake Ave?
do you know where Othello and Ayrshire are?
What's the building they're tearing down? Is it a house?
I think it's, I have to look at my phone. I tried to print this out today, but my computer was
Is that the Four Seasons building?
Oh, I'm guessing it's near,
249, 261, and 265 Lake Ave.
Worcester.
That's Four Seasons? Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Is it? It's 5 buildings that they're demoing.
About 3 smaller ones and 1 big one.
From the plan that I saw, it looked like one big one to me. It didn't see the smaller buildings.
There's a couple of smaller houses aside of the restaurant.
Yeah, little cottages.
3 of them.
Yeah.
2 on the right and 1 out
Okay.
on the road.
That's what I'm thinking, because that's.
And the Four Seasons is like 2 buildings right there. It's one and then
Yeah.
below it, right?
No, the one below, it's the Italian club.
No, I mean, right, like attached is the way it's built.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So there'll be 4 large backyards coming up to the 100-foot buffer, actually crossing it, that, you know, then these smaller houses are gonna be much closer to the road. So So that's on our agenda for June 3rd.
All right. Thank you. Good to know. Is that it?
Yep, that's it.
All right. Mr. Nelson?
3 points. First one is safety, so it's probably the most important of the three. And the lake's been really busy with the rowing community for the last 2 months, as everyone's aware of. And not only have I been at the boat club I belong to, but I've been volunteering for a bunch of QRA races and talked to a lot of the referees and some of the coaches. And I've heard this story come up, which is that if some water user, anyone on the lake, has a safety issue and they dial on their cell phone 911 and get the 911 dispatcher, and they say, I'm at for some lake location like the Narrows or some particular well-named point or a well-named beach that's been overgrown by weeds or a rock that people know about in the lake, the 911 dispatcher says, oh, what I need is a landline address near that point. And so I have been unable to find an answer to this question, and since we have two members of law enforcement here today, I was wondering if they could answer that, because what these people have been suggesting, if this is a real problem, there needs to be some sort of dictionary that maybe we could help in preparing to identify lake locations with landline addresses that the cell phone dispatchers need.
You know what, that's a great idea. That's a major problem in police departments all the time. In Worcester, we have a lot of parks. Sometimes some compliments say, oh, there's someone screaming in Green Hill Park. Well, you know as well, they got Buchanan Street, Skyline Drive. And like you said, the people that live on the lake, the thing that always amazed me so much was how you were a neighborhood, your own community, different from all the other communities in the city. And like you said, you know the names of things, Oak Island, this Eagle Lake, Eagle Rock. It's like, what's that? I wonder if that might not be a good project for maybe the scouts or someone like that to get a pretty big list of what the people on the lake call different locations and have them determine what the street address is on the side for the police, because that's got to be a problem for Shrewsbury, it's got to be a problem for us, and I'll guarantee you it's a problem in Grafton too, because there are many places in this lake. If you know the lake would say this here, that would be a specific place, you know right where that was. The police are, if it's Worcester, they're going to figure it's on our side of the lake, but that's quite a distance. So I think we should take a look at, I don't know, the Watershed Association or even the commission, reach out to the Boy Scouts and see if someone wants to take that up as a project. Because I'm sure that, it takes a little bit of research, learn all the different nomenclature for what everything's called, and get the addresses and then share it with the regional dispatch in Worcester. Shrewsbury has a separate dispatch from ours, and share the same information with them. And it's even valuable if someone calls Shrewsbury PD and they say Brownie Beach. Well, when they look at it, they'll see that that's the Worcester side. They'll know right away to notify Worcester. So I think that's an important thing that we should look at and see if we can get someone to
Yeah, it's,
explore.
in a real-life situation, this is when the bridge was not quite complete, but the lanes were kind of open. And there were still some construction fences and stuff like that, and that you could walk across.
I have a question. I'm sorry.
Just one sec. So, when I had just gone through, I was heading south, and I had just gone through the thing with my family in the boat, and all of a sudden I had this big splash. Someone threw a piece of plywood over the bridge. So I turn around, I putt back out again. There's like, 4 14-year-olds like laughing. Then they come out of the bridge and they kind of like start walking real fast. So I dial 911, and I think I got the state police, and I'm on the lake,
Yeah,
right?
that's what you got.
So the state police said, hey, I'm on Lake Quinsigamond, blah, blah. They said, call Worcester. So I called Worcester. And so the dispatcher gets on the phone. He says, well, where are they? I go, well, they're on the bridge. He goes, which way are they heading? I said, well, they're heading towards Shrewsbury, because I was kind of towards the Shrewsbury side, right? They said, call Shrewsbury. So I called. I got frustrated. I just texted Sean, and I said, these kids they're heading towards Shrewsbury. I don't know if they're gonna turn around or whatever they're gonna do when they get, because it's not actually Shrewsbury till they get to the actually end of the bridge. So it was kind of a funny thing, and I think they got away. No one ended up coming down, but
I don't know if the 911 has changed, if anyone knows. it traditionally went to the State Police Dispatch in Framingham based upon where our cell towers are. But I think that if you call from Worcester, it's gonna start going to, does it yet, or
Worcester, it'll go to Worcester.
if you're in Worcester and,
If you call from the lake and you bounce off a tower somewhere else that's not near Worcester, it's gonna go to the state police.
okay, so you got a 50-50 chance.
What I did in my phone, I have Shrewsbury PD in my phone, Worcester PD in my phone, Worcester Fire on my phone.
Yeah.
So inside.
Which is probably a smart thing for people who live on the lake.
Right, okay.
When-
Most of the time,
When I
if you
was-
call direct, like if you call Shrewsbury and you tell the dispatcher and one of the lake patrol guys happens to be out, they can just, ask the lake patrol guy, where is this location? Do you know where this is? And chances are, the lake guy's that's on the boat's gonna know where the.
Oh, of course they will.
So I just need a clarification, because you said they needed a landline address. Well,
Street
Landline
address,
meaning a-
basically. Landlines are street addresses, cell phones are not
my
landlines.
understanding of landline was a telephone that was connected to your house, not a cell phone, and
Right.
that
Yeah,
was-
and that's exactly what it is, because that's how it works. The identification is by a landline address. Just because there's no landline at a house, it still has a landline address.
Okay.
And that's how the emergency enhanced 911 system is set up. So that's why they want a landline address.
I got you.
Okay, so, yeah,
And you can register your cell phone at your landline address. Like right now, when you call, there's no location on a cell phone, but if you call from your, what they call landline, that means the telephone is connected by wires. When you pick up and dial 911, when they answer the phone, they see right where you're calling from. So even if you can't talk, or you're falling down, or you pass out, they know where the line's coming from. But if you call on your cell phone, they've got to ping towers. It's a involved process to do that. Certainly not enough time in which to save somebody that stopped breathing. So if you want to register your cell phone with your landline address, you can. And apparently there's a way that they know if you're calling from that location or not. But those are all things that don't have a lot to do with the commission, but I know that you're going to be on the lake, and most people use their cell phones on the lake, I'm going to guess.
yeah, good problem. Okay, Bill.
Okay, the second issue is, again, just a question I wasn't able to answer. The QRC has had, the last month or so, men's 8 and a woman's 8 out rowing. One of them is rowing on Saturday mornings when they've been racing. They normally go from 5:30 to 7. And what I've heard from one of the teams, I won't mention which, is say, oh, yeah, you can race early on the lake before racing starts. And the other one says, oh, no, the QRA says that no racing on days when there are official college or high school races set. Now, I have volunteered a lot for the QRA, helping them at regattas. And I know they have a Clarkson's meeting sometime around 8. They have referee meetings before that. Most racing doesn't start to 8:30 to 9. Yet I have been unable to find out what the correct answer is with respect to whether or not other users of the lake can be out there from 5:30 to 7 well before the racing starts, or whether I had to answer that no, they're not allowed on the lake if there is any racing by the QRA on that particular day. And so I'd just like to find what the appropriate answer is to this, and find out if it would be possible for as many users as possible to use the lake if they're not interfering with other activities.
Okay, so my response to that is going to be is that that's pretty much governed by the permit that the event holder would have, okay? So if the permit says that, if the permit says, okay, the lake is shut down, or the boat ramp is specifically shut down between the hours of 8 and 4:30, that's the hours where they have purview, and they can say, hey, we have the lake for this amount of time, and law enforcement would probably help them out and say that, you can't be on this part of it, doing what you're doing. I mean, there's always an open lane on the east side of it that you can go up and down. And that's been challenging at sometimes, because, if you're inexperienced with that, in those particular events, and you're looking down, looking north from the Route 9 bridge, and you see all the crews out there, it just looks like chaos. It's not safe for anybody to go down there. So, but, the more experienced people would say, okay, yeah, the other line's safe, that just looks like chaos. It's not really, it's organized chaos. But if they're out there at 7:30 in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning, and the permit says starts at 8, then yeah, they got the right to be out there. So they should not be doing that. You know, and we can discuss that with the QRA, although the representatives that I talked to about this subject is they're like, you know, well, no, we don't do that. So, you know, that's you know, that's something we have to work out. But that's the rule. If you're on the lake and it's before the permit starts, then, you know, you can do that. Now, using the lanes and holding a race at that point, I don't know if that's appropriate. And, you know, if you're out there for practice
Yeah,
and
these
stuff.
are just practice
Yeah.
from 5:30 to 7.
Because you said race, I'm like, you're not supposed to be out there racing, so.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. You answered my question. It goes by the permit times for the ramp,
Yep.
which is the point I was missing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Other than that, they don't have any right to be telling you where to go or what to do, or, you know, I'm sure one crew boat's not gonna swamp another crew boat, but, they make it like a paddle splashing.
Okay, and the third point is just a minor one. This coming Saturday is Learn to Row Day. And the two of the clubs on the lake, the QRC is having Learn to Row starting at 7 to over the morning. You can go to their website and sign up if you want for the people watching. And I believe Community Rowing is also at Regatta Point is having a Learn to Row, and you can go to their website to find out the details. I don't know exactly
So
when they
it's a
start.
double learn to row whammy. That's how to
Correct.
say that.
And so for all the Shrewsbury and Worcester and other Grafton residents who are listening and want to participate and learn to row, I'd suggest they go sign up today, tomorrow, or Friday ahead of time to make sure they get a spot in the beginning.
All right. I did the learn to row at one point, Harry remembers, and it was a lot of fun. And I'd never been, I have an erg, you know, the rowing machine at my house, and so I was good with that. But I had never like got in and rowed a boat, and they put me in an 8, and they were yelling because I was messing up in there. And but it was a lot of fun. So I would recommend that to anybody who wants to go out there and experience that. It is really kind of a cool thing to do. So and they go through, they teach you, like, you start at the erg actually, and they go around, they teach you how the boats are rigged, and you're not going to test, you spend probably 5 or 10 minutes in each little station they have. And they go through and they show you, kind of what it's all about. And then you actually get in a boat, you tie yourself in, and they take you out. There's experienced rowers in the boat too. It's not just a bunch of, that would be crazy to put all 8 of us in there without knowing what we're doing.
And there'll be an experienced coach and a motorboat along with each.
Oh, yeah, yep. So they don't leave you alone because that equipment's expensive. So they don't want you like running into the ground or anything, but it's a lot of fun. So I recommend it.
5:30 in the morning, is that what you're speaking about, Mr.?
The Learn to Row starts at 7.
Okay, because I think we've got a lot of complaints from the watershed over the years about noise and bullhorns. So if the coaches can keep that in mind,
All right.
on Facebook to a minimum.
So,
Just for a point of information, on race days, I know this on race days only, the crew boats are not allowed to launch until 7 o'clock.
okay.
Not racing at 8, and they are not allowed to launch until 7.
And I just want to bring this up, in the future, when you're speaking from the audience, just so because no one knows who you are, can you please stand up and give your name and address, and just so we know what, because the camera's not always pointing at you, so.
Especially if we don't like what you said.
Yeah, if you see me writing something down, then that's,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
one more thing.
Yeah.
I did notice there were a few remnants of some buoys or markers that were left over from the crew, the racing lanes or something.
Yeah.
There were a few white ones left over on each side, and then there was one green one
I saw that, yeah.
by the Route 9 bridge.
Yep, yeah,
And
yeah.
It's kind of obstructing a little bit, but I mean, if they could take a look and pick up the rest of their buoys, I don't know if they should be all taken out, I would assume.
I thought the thing, doesn't that sink? The course sinks, right, when you take all the
The
buoys?
wire network underneath sinks. The buoys float, and they're connected with 6-foot
Oh, so
lengths of wire.
do they go, yeah, but I mean, when you're not using the course.
When they're not using, the wire network stays there year-round.
Okay, but the buoys, my thing, if I were me, because we have a slalom course on the Flint Pond side, is they get wrecked. because somebody runs it over,
There
grabs it.
there was maybe 7 or 8 of them. I mean, they could have just been missed, because I did see them taking the course out the other, I think it was Sunday night.
Right.
And they could have missed a few of them, so they were towards the edge
Okay.
near shore, and that one near the bridge.
Yeah, so an effort not
My
to,
understanding is they want to take them all out because they lose them through attrition and they cost money to replace
Oh, yeah.
them, so they want to get every one.
I thought the green ones that were actually, because they're up by the no wake buoy. I thought you guys put those in there to,
No, those aren't ours.
okay, all right. I like the more buoys on the front of the bridge, though. I think that's, 'cause it's,
More visible, I think.
yeah, it's more visible, way more, easy to identify, this is the no wake, so. And there were some suggestions about putting stickers on, and I think Mike Liberty had done some research on, we can replace the stickers, instead of having to replace the whole buoy, we can put sticker, we can, like the sticker going into Half Moon Cove, because obviously no one understood what the buoy was there for, because they were going in and out of Half Moon Cove full speed. So, I heard that one boat had to veer away to avoid an accident, so that's a bad spot. So that may be something we can check as a group. We can, come up with some new stickers instead of having to buy a whole new buoy and re-sticker the ones that have faded away. Does that make sense?
It cost, but, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll figure out what the cost is, and maybe we can get an estimate of that and work through that. I just don't want them to be out there and not be effective, that's all. Was that,
I'm
is that
done.
it, Bill? All right, perfect. All right. I guess we had review and act on the following event requests, but we didn't have any event requests, so that's, we don't have to worry about that. Update on the lake management plan. So, I'm not gonna steal the thunder of the LQC, because they have some great things to talk about on that. But I will say from the treatment side of things, is that we're gonna put our RFQ out to treat the weeds, and hopefully that, we'll get that process done. So next month, we'll have the winning bid in hand, so we can execute that and get the treatment started on that stuff.
When would that be, Mr. Chair, if I can ask? When they actually treat?
Depends on when we get all the stuff done.
Okay. This year, though?
Yeah, oh yeah, we're gonna treat this year.
Probably around July 1st or something like that, Mr. Chair? We just don't know.
Yeah, it's gonna be in end of June, early July.
Okay.
That's what we're shooting for. For milfoil, fanwort, and the places we can treat that, we're not banned by the VACI thing, which I'm gonna get to in a second. Sacred Lotus will probably be treated later on in the season, only because it doesn't really pop up, right away. So if you go by it right now, it doesn't look like it's even there. But it usually comes up in July. So we'll probably hit that towards the end of July. And, we hit it last year, we hit the milfoil last year. Also last year, we used a chemical called Clipper. And I think because, we're gonna do this in a little bit in the July timeframe instead of hitting it in the spring, that we'll be able to use Clipper again, because Clipper, you have to be careful, you don't wanna use that every year. But Clipper will be effective on the fanwort and the milfoil, where Diquat, which we use on milfoil, will not be effective on fanwort. So we'll probably use another chemical called Sonar this year as well to mitigate the fanwort. And that was one of the benefits of having all the different chemicals on the one permit, the way we did it. So we'll have that ability to kind of switch gears and do what we need to do and what's appropriate to say at that time. The VACI question is, we're gonna, probably, this will come up at next meeting as well, is that we're gonna look to hire someone to go down and get a sample of the VACI on the bottom. There's some question of what we think is VACI down there is actually that plant. Because the only identification that we've had of VACI is visual. we haven't actually tested the plant. I mean, it's, plants can kind of look similar, especially if you're in, 10 feet of water. The person that identified it was an expert, but it's still, this happened in, I believe, Hoppington, at one of the, it may have been Whitehall, it was one of the reservoirs. And they had, they thought they had vasei in there, and same thing, they couldn't treat the milfoil, it was, kind of taken over. There was, and they went back and they took more samples of the vasei and found, they did a DNA test and found out that it wasn't in fact vasei. So that'll change things for us, because right now, that prohibits us from treating in Half Moon Cove. Basically, we can only treat south of Route 20 effectively, the way we have it right now. So we have a lot more areas to do with that cove at Old Faith, Half Moon, there's some places that are growing at a good clip on milfoil and fanwort. So we're going to do that, get up there and make sure we identify that. We're gonna take a small sample first. If we go back to natural heritage is definitely gonna tell us, well, wait a minute, you can't just take one sample, you gotta have like different points, because we wanna know a wide area, and just because, she already said this to me actually, she goes, just because, that plant you pulled, doesn't pass the DNA test for vasei, doesn't mean the vasei is not down there. So we may be in a situation where we have to prove something doesn't exist. So, or something that doesn't exist isn't there, I guess. I don't know what they want us to do, but we're gonna go on and get that going first. And we'll see what happens from that. And, I think from, that point, and then the weed mapping we're gonna have in the fall. We're actually gonna weed map, this is something you guys can take back to Grafton. We're going to make sure that this year we have the Quinsigamond River and Hovey Pond mapped for weeds, because that's something we have left out in the in past reports. So I want to make sure that that's in there, because I know that's going down there. So because I've seen it, but I want to make sure that that goes in the way it's supposed to be. Hovey Pond is oh, go ahead, sorry.
Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Chairman, but you brought up a point that reminded me of a question from Grafton residents. Do these chemical lists that you mentioned have a finite lifetime? Because it's been pointed out to me by Grafton residents that they all eventually end up going down the Quinsigamond River into Grafton.
The chemicals?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
well,
treatment chemicals, effective lifetime for when they're doing what they're doing.
They're gonna go in there, they're gonna last a short time, and they probably will not have any effective kill if they get down that far. Okay?
Yep.
And bear in mind, when they treat in July, or June or July, the Quinsigamond River is very shallow.
Yes.
So a lot of stuff doesn't go down there. But it doesn't get down to that place when we treat in Flint Pond. Not very far, at least. So I don't think it's gonna get to the Hovey Dam. So it'll get diluted and probably not have much of an effect down there. When it comes to that, we'll probably treat in Hovey. The big challenge with Hovey is it's almost completely surrounded, I think it is completely surrounded by private property. So it's hard to access. It's not completely, because, is the dam private? The dam is run by is maintained by the state. But, that's why we didn't map it last fall, because when they went down there to do it, they couldn't get on the pond. So we have to figure that out. Right now, we could get down there, because you can go down the Quinsigamond River, it's, fairly navigable in a kayak.
Yeah.
But, so we gotta figure that out and work it out, but we'll get an entrance onto the pond and go from there. But does that answer your question about the
Yes.
chemicals? Okay. And that's that on the management plan on our end. Is that, any questions on that? It's an update from Jacqueline. Always a fun time. I just noticed, Jacqueline, that's a long title you got there on the,
Oh,
you have to, the EALB, LP, WDPW, okay?
I have
We need acronyms.
some things I wanted to hand out, and I'll talk about these in a little bit. So So my name is Jacqueline Burmeister from the City of Worcester Department of Public Works and Parks, Lakes and Ponds Program. We're starting up, I think today was the third day of sampling in Lake Quinsigamond by the Lakes and Ponds Program. We're starting to get our chemical data back, so I'm hoping that next commission meeting I'll have a little more data for this year to share with you, but things are looking pretty good as far as Secchi transparency, dissolved oxygen in the upper portion of the lake. Some updates on some of the other projects that we're doing. We got word from the Department of Environmental Protection that our request to get fish tissue analysis done on the fish in Lake Quinsigamond was granted, so they will be they will be doing electroshocking of the lake and collecting fish samples to do tissue analysis for toxins in there. So that will be really interesting to see what they find, if they find anything. I'm not sure when those results will be, probably the end of the summer. But Lake Quinsigamond is one of 4 ponds that they're testing this year. The rest are in Worcester. So that's great. We had our first cyanobacteria monitoring collaborative meeting in May, on May 18th. There were representatives from Lake Quinsigamond that brought a water sample to our new laboratory at the Blackstone Heritage Corridor Visitor Center, where we were able to identify some plankton in Lake Quinsigamond, nothing harmful, just your standard what you would see this time of year. That report will be coming out in the next week, and it will be available on the City of Worcester website. So if you're interested to see what microscopic organisms are living in Lake Quinsigamond, you can see the photos that we took of that water sample under the microscope. So thank you to those volunteers at Lake Quinsigamond who participated in that. It's all part of a national study that is run in part by EPA. And so all those results will also be put onto a national public database. We are in the process of getting a survey for a site on Lake Ave North near Browning Beach. That will be the location of a potential biofiltration unit called a focal point. I mentioned this, I think, last month during the presentation in which I was talking about our future projects. This is going to be like an improved rain garden. It's basically it uses an under drain and improved media that allows quicker infiltration of rainwater from the road, and will use plantings and such to naturally filter that water before it empties into Lake Quinsigamond near Coal Mine Brook. So we're in the first steps of surveying that site so that we know the contours and how that rain garden will have to be shaped. And then finally, what I passed out to you is the result of a co-op with Bancroft School. They are a high school in Worcester, and the seniors there are required to do a collaboration with local organizations to receive credit in their final month of school. So I was working with 2 Bancroft School seniors who were taking time to get to know the water bodies that are part of the Lakes and Ponds programs, one of which is Lake Quinsigamond. They had some questions that they asked the Lake Quinsigamond Watershed Association about some of the challenges that they had both with water quality, but also with outreach. And after doing this at Lake Quinsigamond and some other lakes and ponds in the program, they created these cards for just outreach materials. They are going out tomorrow to canvass certain parts of Lake Quinsigamond, hand out these cards to residents at their door. On it will be talking about different challenges that the lake is facing with water quality, and some of the things that residents could do as individuals to improve water quality, as well as resources for them to see what's going on as far as getting involved in things like cleanups, things that the Lake Quinsigamond Watershed Association is putting on, as well as links to the Lakes and Ponds program. So this is something that they're going to be visiting. They gave me a list of the streets they're planning on distributing these cards. They're going to, basically all the streets off of the lower portion of the Worcester side below Route 9 that are up against the lake. So places like Rogers Drive, Bridle Path, Stoddard Drive, Sandy Bar Drive, East Lake Street, Randolph Street, Davis Way, a bunch in that area. They don't have much time left. They aren't able to do the entire lake, but this is a start, and this postcard is available to the commission and the Lake Association to hand out at events. I'm more than happy to print out more. There's talk of putting it on a magnet so people could put it on their refrigerator. But I'm more than happy to talk with you about how we could distribute these and get more of them out there. But I think they did a really nice job at identifying some of the challenges. And they only had a month to do this, right? To really focus down on those challenges that Lake Quinsigamond is facing and the things that individuals can do to improve the lake. So, yeah. Any questions from the commission?
I have one comment, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, but on the did you know, you can fish, boat, and swim at the guarded public beaches. The boat part, I think I know they rent boats at Community Sailing, which is right next to the beach. But the boat part, I don't know if you're supposed to be bringing your boat in there. If they're talking about, you can launch your boat and pull it up and hang out at the beach.
Right. So one of the
While
purposes.
while the beach is being guarded and open for swimming, that kind of thing.
Right. And so one of the purposes of this postcard was they were going to some neighborhoods that might not have even necessarily known that there was a water body near them that was publicly accessible. And so that portion was to let people know of the amenities that, or just the things that you can do at the lake or pond. And so that portion wasn't necessarily to say that you can boat at the public beach, but that you can boat at Lake Quinsigamond.
Okay, because that's kind of what it says. But that's not a big deal, but I would just check the wording of that. And
Right.
so no one misconstrues that to think that they can pull up, because they'll get reprimanded fast, I think.
Right.
I only know that because it happened to me.
Oh.
Get that boat out of here. What are you doing? So, all right, this is a excellent piece of work. So I love the photo on the top of it. It's great. It's, I think it's really nice. Good job. You coordinated that with the schools?
Yeah, so they have a coordinator that goes about and
Yeah.
looks for potential partnerships. Oh, thank you. And I had been working with another gentleman from the school who recommended that it might be good. And they're doing a great job, so that when they go around, they're not just slipping these in people's mailboxes, they're knocking on doors and answering questions and directing people to resources. So they've really taken time to learn these issues and understand what it means to residents and why people need to pay more attention to them.
Yeah.
So I think it was a
It's
good
a cool thing.
project. Yeah.
High school
High school
is really
seniors.
different than it was when they just seem to do more
I
stuff.
hope they got a good grade in their project.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think, and they did these for 3 other water bodies as well, so.
If they're so inclined, please feel free to bring them in and introduce them. We'll thank them personally for doing this.
Of course.
And maybe next year, if they're interested, they can do a nice map of the landmarks versus the landline property, since they're walking around doing it anyway, so give them a little bit more time.
Right.
But this is so nice. I like-
To
Micah.
talk about that, Mr. Chair, just an idea in terms of what you're talking about. As you can see this here, you could have an outline of the Lake Quinsigamond North, and on the reverse side, Lake Quinsigamond South. And you could have an outline of the lake and have demarcation points on there. And the size of it, I think it might be a good size that, and maybe even the cost, so that it could be something that people could pick up at like the ramp when they launch their boats, so that they could identify certain areas on the lake, if need be, to make a call relative to some problem. So I'm thinking that it's something that, like I said, looks like if you tried to squash the lake in just an outline form on one side, it would be so small, people might have a hard time reading it. But if it said Lake Quinsigamond North and you flipped it over Lake Quinsigamond South, and you had an outline of the lake, not so much a photo, but with demarcation points, that could lend itself to what Captain Steele was talking about in terms of having some kind of ID handy reference map. So, that's my thought, Mr. Chair.
To the thought that you had about inviting them in to be thanked personally, their semester is going to be ending probably third week in June, maybe? And that would be a week or so before our meeting in June.
All right, well, you know, they can, if they're still around after the school year and they want to do it, that's fine. If not, maybe next, I'll be happy to do it in the fall when they come back.
Another project next year.
The seniors, but then it won't be.
Yeah, they'll
Other
probably.
Yeah.
seniors, that's right.
I actually, I
Well,
think,
tell them thank you
There'll
for
be
us.
another senior class though next year, won't
I think one is going international for college and one is going to Syracuse, so.
All right.
They're off to
I'll
exciting
be in Syracuse
places.
next week, so I can drop it off. All right, thank you very much.
All right, no problem.
Okay, so an update from the Lake Quinsigamond Watershed Association. Mr. Liberty, what's going on?
Mike Liberty with the Lake Quincy Watershed, and this is Tucker Beckett, which he'll will formally introduce him in a few minutes. First thing, just wanted to let you, I think Jacqueline, this might be a little bit of a rehash. Jacqueline we've started the cyano testing on the 18th, and they weren't, it's early, but there haven't been any negative results. She went over the Bancroft school project. Angela Snell had sent us we were trying to work with the DPW with the MS4 permits and see what we could do, not permits, but the program, to see what the Lake Quincy watershed could do with the association. And she sent us a pretty interesting project to identify storm drain labeling. So to actually label them and then have like neighborhood people, volunteers, adopt them to keep them clean from litter and debris. So you're identifying the storm drain that actually flows into the lake, and then you just kind of maintain it on a, whatever basis, but more than it is now, to keep little things like straws, plastic bags. I mean, there's certain things that won't fit through it.
Yeah.
But just to try to maintain it. So that's in its infancy right now, but it's something that we're looking at developing, and it might even be kind of a mandate as part of the program where we can help the town do this. And it's not just where, like, we certainly would address the basins that are right next to the lake, South Quincy, North Quincy, but you kind of want to do more outreach further away from those areas, because eventually, once you identify them, you know that they do flow into the lake, it all counts.
Yes.
That's something that we're kind of looking at right now. The DCR water monitoring program has just started too, and happy to report, this is from Angela as well, that both Regatta and Lake Park beaches came back with very low numbers for bacteria. So of course, they've opened over the weekend, but a good start to the season
good to
as
hear,
compared
yes.
to last
Yeah.
year. Very, very low numbers. I believe Regatta was 3 MPN and Lake Park was 4, which is extremely low. Again, it could be just a start, but we're hoping to help DCR with that as well. And speaking of DCR, the watershed has advanced to the second round of the grant program that DCR is offering. It's their 2-to-1 match, where the Lake Quincy watershed donates money or gives money to comes up with a project. The project right now basically has been approved, but now we have the thesis of it. Now we have to develop actually the nuts and bolts of it. And once we donate to give the money to the DCR, they run the program, and it's a 2-to-1 match. So if we gave them $2,000, the program, they could get $6,000 worth of work done. They hire we haven't really decided exactly what the locations, but it's all in regards to water monitoring and quality testing, and maybe some DNA sampling as well, to try and solve some of these problems that we experienced last year over the beaches. So it should be it looks positive at this point. And then an update on our collaborative between the watershed, the LQC, and the city of Worcester, our water quality monitoring program. we're continuing to work on the QAP. Today, actually brought Tucker out, which I'll have him introduce himself, to look at the tributaries that might be sampling. And we've come up with, a few of them, Belmont Street Drain, the UMass Drain, Coal Mine Brook, Billings Brook, Tilly's Brook, Regatta Beach, Lake Park, Fitzgerald Brook, and I even brought them down to, Whitler Ave Pump Station, but I forget the name, O'Hara Brook that comes in there. So we're trying to start somewhere, but,
That's ambitious right there.
so, these, again, we have to collaborate with Jacqueline and the city of Worcester too, because we think it might complement her program. She's already up in these brooks testing. So to give some bacteria information to her would just add to the data sheet and help the program go a little bit further. And then here we are, this is Tucker Beckett. This is the first hire that we have for the Lake Quinsigamond Watershed Association, and he's developing our QAP right now, and also will be taking over the coordination, testing and whatnot of the program that we're embarking upon. But I'll let Tucker introduce himself. And
It's nice to meet you all. Like I said, I'm Tucker. I'm a master's student at Clark University. I'm a GIS specialist. The program is Geospatial Information Science for Development in the Environment. I'm happy to be here to help you guys out, and working hard on the QAP right now. Just waiting on a few more pieces of key information to finish it up, but progress is very good.
All right.
Sure. If I can add a comment, be interested to see how the bacteria count looks after these unfortunate fecal factories, otherwise known as Canada geese, start swimming around with their gosling broods. As people who live on the lake, and these geese would then forage in their yard, they're factories. We'll leave it at that.
4 or 5 pounds a day.
Yeah,
No, nuts.
and it'd be interesting to see if such testing would be done about a month from now, the difference.
Yeah, I think it's a little early to be smiling all the way through, but take the good that we have. Also,
Because
I'd
I know
like,
just to add, these geese are having 4 to 7 to 8 goslings each. And as you said, 4 to 5 pounds a day,
more eagles.
If I could follow up on that point, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
You had mentioned that maybe, and I heard the word maybe, you'd be able to get some DNA testing in. I think since facts are so important, it's very important that we could get some DNA testing to see if we could identify the problem as dogs waste, human waste, or geese waste. Because it could turn out, if it's one of them, we might be spending some of our time looking at the wrong source.
Totally agreed. That's why we're applying for the grant. And the city of Worcester is also have the same, we're aligned parallelly with the same goals in mind, for sure, because why chase your tail? Find out what it is and treat it. The part of that program, just to follow up, Mr. Nelson, is if we do identify it through the source, through the DNA, is to come up with some sort of eradication or some plan, some management plan. So if it's geese, then you address it a certain way. If it's human, you may have to do some more tracking and figuring it out, but that's part of the grant, is once you get this information, is to come up with a plan to mitigate it or eliminate it. So that's all part of it. I'd also like to recognize a few people. We've done a little bit of fundraising over the last month or so, and the watershed has just received 3 checks totaling $1,250 from, I'd like to call them out, Tony L. Nemmer, Ron Maloney, and the Gymnastics Learning Center, Marianne Frangillo. So it's a start. There's more. This will go into the watershed. It's, for the general pool to keep this funding going for Tucker and the program that we're doing. So we're not just trying to draw down the funds, but also replenish, because we don't see this as a one and done. This is going to be a yearly thing. So anybody that can help us with their donations, this is certainly a great start to add in, to keep the bucket full. The last thing I had was the, what you had mentioned before, which was the sticker, because Joe Gabriella had mentioned down at Half Moon in front of Mike's house. The stickers are $45 for 2, and while I was out today, I noticed that that buoy is either like 8 or 10 inch diameter, and that's what these are designed for. It's a 13 by 24-inch sticker. And they're supposed to be marked on both sides. But I also noticed the price of buoys, and they're around $350. So it's definitely an economy for the board to, and Joe has also offered to put them on, should we order them. So I don't mind ordering them through the watershed, so just to get it done, because as he said, this is something that should be done probably right away, before we're saying we should have over $45.
Yeah, so if, there's something you folks are comfortable with, that's
I have no problem doing it.
good with me.
Is it okay to put the stickers on through the commission? I mean, that's what I'm kinda asking too. You don't want people just going out there putting stickers on things.
No, I don't, especially like Eat at Joe's or something like that.
Right.
Other thing. So,
Is it
Any
Watershed hoping to be reimbursed by the commission for the stickers?
$45, I think we can handle it.
I think it's a great idea. I think we should accept their generous offer to do those you were just talking
an
about.
application, I mean, that's a thing you guys normally do, so let's take some heat off of you guys. I would like to see the sticker,
Yeah.
So we could make sure
See,
they're not.
I did some kind of, not research, but looked at the application, how it is that both got approved, and that's why we use
Yeah.
the entries and harbors. and
Guess that
whatnot.
says it all.
Yeah, no wake.
Pass that down to me. Yeah, while they're looking at that, I want to go, just for a second, touch on the collaborative, because this is the really significant, I think, and exciting part of this is that, the city and the watershed, so Lakes and Ponds, the watershed and the Lake Commission are working together. We have a person working for us to do this work, and I just think that's an exciting thing for us, and an exciting time that we're, moving forward with the plans we've made. So I want to thank Jacqueline and yourself and the watershed for Lakes and Ponds and the watershed for getting on board with this whole thing. And welcome aboard, Tucker. I hope it's a good experience with you. Did you have a nice ride around the lake?
Yeah.
Were you drinking? And I'm not going to tell on you or anything like that. You weren't like drinking any beer or anything like that, out there, right?
Only coffee to get up there.
Oh, only coffee?
That's it.
That's good, okay.
But he's made a lot of progress on the QAP, with the development of it. It's very entailed. It's not a small document.
Was a QAP required for this grant you're applying for now? This is a different grant than the grant.
It's required to submit the data that we get to the
Right.
DEP. So
Right.
that they can accept it and study it. It kind of qualifies your program.
Right.
And it's useful data. So, we could go out and test and come here and say, Mr. Commissioner, we found this and we found that, but it's
Right.
just
But
between
DEP
this
is
board
gonna
and us.
ignore
The
it.
DEP
Yeah.
makes you more valid,
Yeah.
to apply for grants in the future to keep the program going.
Okay. So, that's a good thing then. That's a big step that we're gonna take, that we get
That's
this,
what we're
we get this
investing in.
document filled out,
Yeah.
and they know we know what we're doing.
Yeah. He also attended the QAP training seminar that the DEP put on. It was 2 one-day seminars that taught how to write the QAP, and then also to interpret the data. There was 2 different separate programs that happened last month that he went to. So
Do you know when and Jacqueline may be able to answer this too, is the Association of Watershed Associations?
COLAP?
COLAP.
That already happened.
That already happened?
Yep, that was, I think, a month ago. So,
Yeah.
Where's that, in Vegas?
Florida,
North Carolina.
Westboro.
I'm gonna
Glorious
have to be
Westboro.
looking for something to do with my spare time when I retire, so.
You'd like this. It's interesting.
You like it?
Yeah, I attended one.
You better find your name on the DNA list. All right, so,
That's all I have.
all right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tucker. All right, set the date for the next meeting.
Wednesday, June 26th, Mr. Chair?
Is that the last Wednesday of the month?
As it is.
I'm gonna, depend on you, so 6/26 at 7 PM. Maybe here, I think. We don't know. Is that what you have, Jess? Okay, so we'll determine the room later. I want to thank Jess, by the way, for setting this up. making this change for the last minute so we could go on live. So that was nice. Thank you. All right, we got to the fun part. Roger,
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
So voted. Thank you.